So hi there to anybody who is listening. My name is Ryan Aurelio, and I was asked by a good friend to record a brief video with a few tips for getting started in sketchnoting and creating sketch notes. So the reason that Mr. Kathman in this case reached out to me is because this is my preferred way to take notes. So what you see on my screen here is Keynote. I've got Keynote on my iPad, and it's opened up to just a blank document with nothing else in the document. I love to use Keynote for sketchnoting because it's a great tool. It works really well, and honestly, it's a slide-based tool. So we're all already fairly familiar with slide-based tools. And I like to use my Apple Pencil because the Apple Pencil works really well with it. However, you could also use a different stylus or even your finger to draw in Keynote. So, to get started, when I'm creating sketch notes, whether I'm watching a movie or listening to a podcast or at a conference or even in a conversation with somebody, I'm almost always going to start by adding a title somewhere. All right, and in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a title in the bottom right. I'm just going to start writing here with my pencil. All right, and I'm going to add my title, the water cycle, because I'm making maybe a really quick sketch note about the water cycle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm always going to add some sort of little embellishment around the title, something that I can use to make it stand out. So in this case, maybe I'm going to grab, red, and I'm going to grab my pencil tool. I'm sorry, default to green, right? I'm going to add some green around here to kind of make like a little bit of a box. And then maybe I'm going to go back to my pen, and I'm going to select a moderately thick pen with some, let's say, yellow. And I'm just going to add something, that makes my title stand out a little bit. That's all that this is. All right, and as soon as I've got a title, that stands out enough to me, right, I'm going to move on. And now I'm going to start just drawing my notes. All right, so I'm going to go back to, I'm going to select black, and we're going to start with, obviously, the first part of the water cycle. Condensation. And, I'm going to draw. What does that mean? Condensation means raindrops. I'm going to draw some really quick lines because, it looks like the raindrops are falling. All right, and there's what I have for condensation, right? The drawing doesn't have to be great. The text doesn't have to be great. But what's important is that the image is connected to the text if you are going to use both. Sometimes I'm only going to write text. Sometimes I'm only going to draw images. But always what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them together so that they seem connected. All right, so let's move on now. I'm going to go back to black, and I'm going to move on to the second set of the water cycle. That would be collection. And in this case, I'm going to go to blue now. I'm going to grab a thick line. I'm going to draw kind of like what looks like a little lake here. Look at that. Best lake you have ever seen. And I'm going to pick a different color, and I'm going to pick a brown type color, or no, a green type color, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put maybe a couple mountains in the background. Collection. Now here's the important part. I'm always going to use the same color for how I connect stuff, but I'm always going to create some sort of tool to connect the individual things that I'm drawing. In this case, I'm drawing arrows. All right, that is one of the things that when I demonstrate sketchnoting to students, I will always emphasize. What are you using as a connector? You might use arrows as a connector. You might use a dotted line as a connector. You might use a little squirrely line or something like this just to make it a little bit fun. One of the other things you might do, we're going to undo that dotted line, is you might do things like put stuff in a box to contain certain parts of your notes. It's the structure of the notes that really make them really valuable and really easy. And this is the thing that I would encourage you to practice. Draw a whole bunch of different types of arrows. What do arrows look like, right? Draw a bunch of different ways that you can connect ideas. And you'll start to build on those things and start to use those things when you're taking notes. So really quickly, start with a title. Make that title kind of like embellished a little bit. Make it bigger. Put it in the center. Put some circles around it or some dots or some squares or something to make it a little bit, highlighted. And then add your text. Add any imagery that goes along with it. And focus really on connecting the ideas so that you can see how one leads to the other. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please direct them to Mr. Kathman.